No Nation. Welcome into another episode of the Renegade Rundown. Friday night, nice night out here in the state of Florida, but not exactly the best news that came out yesterday regarding the ACC, ESPN, and the future of FSU football within that. It's not, I've seen some people out there just doom and gloom. Oh, it's all over. Florida State stuck through 2036 and things of that nature. It hasn't gone that far yet. Doug Rohan, I hope we get to talk to him in the future. Myself, how ESPN has valued the conference, the things that they have done, constantly denigrating teams like Clemson and Florida State, denigrating strength of schedule, making out like the SEC is just a complete and different university of football. They're escalating profits where they're going to be getting close to $100 million towards the end of this deal through 2036 in Florida State. The ACC will still be somewhere in the 50s, maybe getting up towards 60. It just doesn't really make sense. Saw how bad the conference was as far as TV numbers with Florida State down this year. You saw how they treated Clemson when they got it. Kirk Herbstreit saying, "Oh, we don't really want little old Clemson in college football playoff." I'm not ready to believe FSU and Clemson are like, all right, we sign off on the no deal, and we're good. We're going to be here through 2036. Just because FSU went 2-10, all of a sudden they're not going to fight. The one rumor out there, the one totally unsubstantiated, is that this was a deal that had been in the works for months. They were working on getting this thing set for ESPN to extend. Have there been negotiations between FSU and Clemson and the ACC? There's been some leaks, some anonymous sources and things like that quoted saying that before this year, the past couple of years, before seeing the Pac-12 collapse, before seeing how the playoffs and everything went down, they didn't have the votes necessary to go with unequal revenue share. We said all along on this channel, and I won't speak for everybody that's not here, if you went with an equal revenue sharing, Florida State and Clemson could make as much as the SEC teams or the Big Ten teams, or even in the same ballpark, then fine. We'll be the top dog in the conference. We'll keep bringing the eyeballs. We'll stay in the ACC forever. Undefeated should still get you in, even though what happened in 2023 with a 12-team playoff. If we go undefeated, we should make it in. So, yeah, we're going to get 70, 80 million a year, and we can compete and things of that nature. That'd be fine. But Florida State brings 15% of all the viewership. And that's just if you kind of count their games and if you really got into it, when we play a team, when you play a Cal, when you play these teams that average a couple 100,000 views, per game, it's a difference maker for everybody. It raises everybody's. So where do you go from here? That's the big question. There was talk about possibly a partial deal that would just extend it to 2030, and then they would come sit back down. We didn't hear about that. Unfortunately, now with the ACC or ESPN agreeing to extend the contract with ACC, it's all going to come down to the court cases. Will they settle? Will they take it all the way down the line? What's Florida State's thing? The biggest thing that you guys have to know, if ESPN didn't extend, that would have been giant breaking news, and we could have just went into all crazy conspiracy theories. All right, how fast will FSU get out? Are they going to just ride it out through 2027 in the ACC? Or are they willing to pay, the exit fee for just a year or two? All that's out the window now. Now, if Florida State leaves, and I haven't seen where this is official yet. I haven't seen a contract or anything to that nature. Just to be clear, it's just that the reports are, and the deadline's coming out here in a couple hours, that the ACC and the ESPN have reached an agreement, and they will be extending that contract. So, again, the next kind of, I think, court case in Leon County is in March. The other case is in North Carolina Court of Appeals. I'm not even sure when the next date is there. But, they've really drug their feet on discovery. We haven't really heard anything about it. It'll be another month before that comes up. Do they settle before that happens? Do all of a sudden we hear tomorrow, okay, it's finalized, ACC and ESPN, and then you hear something come about it from Clemson and FSU? I'm not sure. I have not heard anything of that nature. I know we've got our football only facility almost completed, which is huge. That's a big, big project that was a decade in the making, close to $100 million. The renovations to Doak are almost done. I don't know if FSU's administration is thinking that, maybe ride it out a couple of years, see what happens. But I continue to say what I've said all along. You want to compete for national championships consistently, in this new era of college football, to compete with the big dogs. If you don't want to be complaining about, your PR on every channel, if it's the Big Ten, if it's Fox, they're talking crap about the ACC because they got the Big Ten. If it's ESPN, they're talking crap about FSU because they got the SEC, which they obviously value more to a large degree. At this point, whatever the 40-something million when you add it up, some people like to bullshit you and act like Florida State and Clemson only make $30 million a year in the ACC. But that's not entirely true. It's up over 40 million and getting closer to 50 because there's actually two different checks that come. It's like, ESPN cuts a check for the tier 1 rights, and then there's a whole nother check for the ACC network. I believe it's something like a 60-30 split, something like that, the way the money comes down. It's not terrible right now. It wasn't terrible back in 2008 or 2012, whenever it was that we were getting 25 million and the SEC was getting 32 or 34. We've said this all along. It's when you get to 26, 27, 28, 30, and all these other people are going to be able to go back and sit down at the negotiating table and up their ante. Look, we got many guys in the playoffs because you pushed them in there. We got this, we got that. ACC already signed away. They already agreed to a tiny chunk, I think 17% of the playoff revenue, with the Big Ten and SEC getting north of, 30-something percent. And meanwhile, you're kowtowing to a Notre Dame team and just letting them be like a free agent in your conference. They get 5 good games on their schedule. They get a check from the ACC. And if they make the college football playoff, they get the whole shebang. If they would have made the college football final, Notre Dame would have brought $30 million in to their university, just themselves. Meanwhile, Clemson and SMU make it in, and it gets broken up amongst all 17 members. 17 members. Suzanne Bijor, I believe she is a member, maybe not. Thanks for the question. Why would ESPN extend the contract without confirmation that the ACC's biggest brands were locked in until 2036? And that's it's a very good question. That's, my question. That's why I did not believe that they would. I thought ultimately, if you look at what the conference is, you take out FSU and Clemson, and it's not worth that 50 million average. Like, I truly don't. The counter to that point, and what I think the true answer to that, Suzanne, is these deals, they're just becoming larger and larger. The inflationary aspect of, just outside of college football, just the American economy. Just think about how much everything costs just over the past couple of years. And with college football and all of a sudden athletes getting paid and the books getting opened, collective bargaining, not potentially, it's happening. We don't know what form it'll take. But all of a sudden, endowments, starting to get involved in like the actual money of things. You're being able to do this and do that. ESPN is hedging their bets and saying by 2036, 50 or 2032, whatever you want to say, by the middle of this deal, $50 million will be peanuts in the bucket. And this is my reason that I don't give a shit what concessions are being made unless it's to be competitive, unless it's to be within 20% of the Big Ten, 20% of the SEC. That's the deal FSU would have to make, Clemson would have to make to the SEC, to me, the ACC to me, to lock in for that amount of time. Because I'm here to tell you now, if I had to guess, by 2036, the SEC teams and the Big Ten teams will be making $150 million. I mean, maybe I'm crazy with just the way things are going, but all of a sudden they're not just getting by on scholarships anymore. All of a sudden these athletic directors are looking at books and they're looking at that TV amount, which keeps getting bigger and bigger. The college football playoff, it's just a bunch of money. And yeah, again, we talked about this in 2012 when it was pushed all the way through 2027. Tomahawk Nation or the OGs covering this, like they've done a million breakdowns. You can go back and everything that they wrote on, all the episodes we did a year ago, it's all relevant to today. But yeah, well, it's the 2024 now. You're talking about 25 now, excuse me. You're talking about another 11 years where you just see the Big Ten and the SEC get farther and farther away. You zoom out. We're FSU fans, so obviously we want to be in the Big Ten. We want to be in the SEC. The Big Ten isn't available, so Florida State can do what they have to do. So Florida State can compete at the highest level. So we don't want to have to hear about strength of schedule because it's ridiculous. It's Fox News and CNN how they talk about this stuff. You know, they'll get right on there and talk about how crappy this schedule is for this team, but ignore the team in the SEC that just missed everybody. Like Georgia the year before last. Georgia had one of the easiest schedules in the country. Forget conference year before last. They didn't play anybody in the East was cheeks. South Carolina was cheeks. You know, Florida was cheeks. Everybody was cheeks. You know, in Texas this year, they ended up being pretty good, won a couple games in the playoffs or whatever. But using their logic, they had like the 50th strength schedule, and they lost to the only ranked team they played twice. But that doesn't get applied because, they played in the SEC. Beat a bunch of 2-10, 3-7, whatever, and stuff like that. But it doesn't matter. That stuff ain't going away. The only thing that can make that go away is for Florida State or Clemson to make a run and dominate. But again, it suits to serve the ACC. Our guy Jim Phillips, I threw him up there on the old thumbnail. You know, I've said this from day one that they hired him. He's done the job that he was supposed to do. The position he was left in from Swofford, signing this deal with Raycom back in 2008 when ESPN took over the SEC's productions, the beginning of all this hell in marketing. They worked it out all the way down the road. Again, we've covered it in past episodes. From his son being at Boston College, Swofford gets Boston College to join the conference because of that. His son now has been working his way up. Every time another extension gets done with ESPN, every time a new deal happens, the fucker gets another promotion. Now he's almost to the top of it. I believe Swofford's wife is with Raycom. All the old money, the behind the scenes chicanery, the whatever you want to call it. He was brought in to kind of just get us through this contract. Whatever it has to do to keep the ESPN contract up. So that's why you add those three teams. So ESPN can play go to a California audience. SMU is pretty good getting that set. Like, I would have taken SMU. The other two teams, it just doesn't make sense. You can see it. You can see it now. I'm sure ESPN is going to have. They're probably going to sub out some of these games to different networks. They're already doing things with TNT and TBS and stuff like that. But yeah, it's really depressing for me. I was hoping for that, no extension. I know I told you guys it's hard to see it, but at this point, that it's just it has to be that great of a deal for ESPN. Basically, at the end of the day, and it probably is. I'd love to be sitting in the ESPN boardroom and look at what their projections are for the money in the college football playoff and how much it'll be when they sit down in another year or two or whatever they do. So, yeah, guys, I wish I had better things to report. There's no solid information out there. Like I said, we'll see what happens tomorrow as the date passes or the date arrives. If they come out with anything official, we'll see what happens. If ESPN or if FSU makes a statement, they were really loud the past two off seasons. Part of me feels like going 2-10, as much as I said at the beginning of the show, like going 2-10 should not change anything about the future of your program, what you want to do, what conference you want to be in, what commitments you want to make, whether you want to pursue litigation or settle. That shouldn't affect it. But at the same time, when it goes to PR and your team needing to focus and things of that nature, it's one thing coming off of 10 wins building, coming off of 13 wins, you get snubbed out of the playoff. After last season, I think it's going to be pretty quiet, and we'll learn some things. We'll talk to our people, and we'll try to get you guys, maybe Sunday we'll do a show, maybe we'll come back Tuesday, a better idea of what exactly is happening. Is Florida State ready to dig their heels in and look forward to this March court date? Are they going to bounce early? Because again, all of a sudden, this 2036 date changes everything. There's no biding our time to wait till it's closer to the buyouts, this or that. No, this is that big $400 million, $700 million, whoever you want, whether you want to believe FSU's lawyers or the ACC's lawyers. This is that giant thing. This is that deal. This is what these court cases are all about. So it's all going to come down to if FSU can win, if they lose, if they decide to settle. If I had to make a prediction right here and now, it would be that FSU agrees and Clemson agrees to some kind of unequal revenue distribution. Will it be enough that I'm happy and all the fan base is happy and everybody? I don't know, but it sure seems like that is a move, because to Suzanne's point earlier, and like I've been telling you guys all along, whatever they value the ACC at right now when they decided to make this extension, it's got to include FSU and Clemson. It has to, because without it, it isn't. And just like for reference, the Big 12's deal averages like close to $20 million less than the ACC. Okay, and what's the difference in the ACC and the Big 12? The difference? Florida State and Clemson. They used to have Oklahoma and Texas. There wasn't much of a difference. Really there is if you go over the past couple of decades, national championships and things of that nature. But here right now, and like kind of the amount of brands and things of that nature, Texas is relevant right now. OU not quite so much. They lost them, and that's where they are. They're stuck at $30 million a year. Maybe I'm right, and inflation hits, and they blow up and they have a couple big years. But it's like, I don't know. It's like selling reality TV in 2025, selling like Jersey Shore. Like people aren't watching that; they're watching streamers. I don't know how many people. When all these big SEC games are on every week, when all these Big Ten games are on every week, because you've got 15 blue blood or whatever, whether they're blue blood or new blood, the 15 top programs in all college football are all within these two conferences outside of a handful, FSU, Clemson, and Notre Dame. That's it. Those are the only programs that aren't in the Big Ten or the SEC. Notre Dame, Florida State, and Clemson. There are no other programs out there that you would, with national championships in the past couple decades, recruit in the top 15, top 20. They're just not. Everybody else is, Arizona State was a great story, but they were like 60th in the portal, whatever, in high school recruiting. Colorado, same thing. They got Deion Sanders, all this stuff, high draft picks, but they still recruit super low. It's and just to answer this, because it's not going to happen. I'll get on here and eat my hat or whatever if it does. People want to talk about if Notre Dame could join the other two and you have three big brands in the ACC, and Notre Dame being somebody that ESPN cannot help but suck up to. They bring a lot of money, all that thing. That could be a way for the ACC maybe to get a bump and, if not compete, at least get respect amongst those top 4 or 5 teams in the conference. It's just there's no reason for Notre Dame. For the reasons I outlined earlier, there's just absolutely no reason for them to ever join the conference. I don't believe they ever will. We'll see what happens, guys. But yeah, unfortunately, ESPN did take the option that they kicked down the road for 4 years to extend the ACC through 2036. Again, whether that's because they view just the content of, even mediocre football, whatever the case may be, to grow to where that programming is going to be worth it or be a great asset by 2030, 2031, or they believe FSU and Clemson are locked in. We'll find out soon enough. There's also some other cool stuff out there. Guys, of course, if you have any questions, get them in there. If I see them, I'll throw them up there. I see Tiny Hats in the chat. Talking about we're getting 2016 prices until 2036. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's a beautiful deal for ESPN, especially if FSU and Clemson don't make waves. So we'll see. If ACC can sweeten it up for FSU and Clemson to make it worth their while to keep their contract with ESPN, we'll see. Did they pull in the rest of the members and be like, I know you guys voted this down and voted this down, but unequal revenue sharing is coming. It was one of ESPN's stipulations in the new contract that it'll never be I don't believe we'll get a true 15% like we deserve. If you do the math, the 15% would come out to FSU making, I believe, upwards of 70, $80 million a year, which would put them right in line with the SEC and the Big Ten over the next 5 years. I don't think that happens. You could even get to 10%. Something get you within $15 million, $10 million of these other big conferences where you can compete. Like, I don't think people realize, Big 12 at like 30 something million, ACC at like 50 million, SEC and Big 10, 70, 80 million. Think about like the best teams in the country this year. Okay. Ohio State and the rumors about their NIL. That's an entire NIL budget. And they get it on top of everything that we get. Now imagine being a Big 12 team. That'd be really hard. Yeah, we'll see what happens, guys. But there's some good news out there, like I was trying to get to a second ago. Azaria Thomas out of the Senior Bowl has been absolutely tearing it up. We all had our draft projections this year and who we thought would do what. Coming off the run the past couple of years, it didn't quite shake out. Joshua Farmer's also at the Senior Bowl. He had some good measurables and really done some good things. But, man, everybody has just been super impressed with our guy, Azaria Thomas, out of Niceville, Florida, not too far down the road. A lot of people had him in the first round projections after the year. I saw a video with Todd McShay talking about him, and he was just raving about him. Apparently, at the Senior Bowl, he was just the best athlete on the field, offense, defense. He was just that guy, just an absolute dog out there, just like we kind of figured he was coming into the season. You didn't get to see it a ton. And I kept wondering, like, where's AZ, man? Why ain't he tackling better and doing these things? And I had this same realization, like almost every single post game this whole show. Oh, well, he played 90 snaps. Nobody threw the ball at him. And he was always in man coverage or, getting blocked by a decoy or something like that. But yeah, go turn on the film, get the all 22 view and watch the dude do his thing all year. And yeah, he's just a beast. There's a reason people weren't throwing at him. He's a real bright spot on a bad team. And FSU just continues to have the craziest hit rate on DBs ever. I got into a conversation with an idiot on Twitter about this the other day, and we were talking about, some schools, especially the past 15, 20 years, Bama has been a factory. They probably got double the DBs committed, or not committed, but drafted the past 2 years. But it's equal in terms of all pro, Pro Bowls, like actual stud corners. The amount of all pros, Pro Bowlers, and DBs that come out of FSU, somebody prove me wrong. I'm almost 99.9% positive the hit rate is the highest of any school. Because almost every DB that gets drafted from Florida State goes into the league and damn near starts or is a big-time rotational player for their team. And they end up being good. Just to run the past 10, 15 years, Xavier Rhodes, 7 years, he's elite, all-pro. Jalen Ramsey, multiple, all-pros. Derwin James doing his thing. Even though he gets hurt very early in his career, comes right back, boom, all pros, all Pro Bowls, all that stuff. It's like you could damn near take 3 guys, that were all playing at the same time and have, an all-pro guy. They're 2 safeties or 2 corners and a safety at the same time. And you can bring Terrence Brooks over. Terrence Brooks started forever and ever. Ronald Darby, throw the names out there. And there's some pretty good guys, but, Cromartie. And if you go all the way through it, Deion Sanders, Buckley, Cromartie, it's really unreal. You think about Florida, you think about Alabama, and like, yeah, they've had some good guys, not so much Florida on the high end guys, but so many dudes come out from Bama and go, oh, they're this and that, and they don't pan out. But it's like it's very rare that I can think of very few, and I won't name names in Florida State that haven't hit. But this past DB class, Jerry and Jones is out there running around in the slot, covering everybody, stuffing stats because people they think it's sweet. But no, Bernardo Green is out there shutting people down, 13 pass breakups. Whatever it is, whatever's in the water, whatever they do to, whether it was Monk Bonasort before being part of those staffs and, things of that nature, or whether it's Patrick Surtain just being a beast now. It's DB coaches come and go, defensive coordinators come and go, but defensive backs coming out of Florida State shine. And Pat Surtain has a big group of them with him now. But yeah, it's hard to. I don't want to talk shit, so I don't want to name them, but it's hard to think of people that have missed. Marcus Joyner, damn good corner. When you think of a miss, you think of somebody like Tavares McFadden, who's had like a decade-long, career in, CFL and things of that nature. But there's Greg Reed stinks. He got hurt. I think injuries really derailed his, but yeah, a lot of studs. I think, Sante Samuel, he's another one, a big-time hit. A guy that came out of Florida State. It's not as bad. I guess it's worse this year, but it's just a one-year blip. Santi, he went through the end of the Willie years and all that stuff. So, and still, just was a beast. Another thing that happened, a guy that I've been telling you about for a while, Tylon Lee, the defensive, I think he's an edge listed out of Pace, Florida, that committed to Florida State on signing day or right there around it. I can't remember now. I've been telling you guys over and over again, even though some of the services have him ranked pretty low and he's not a super flashy, recruit, that watch out. Of all the defensive linemen we brought out of high school, this guy, his first step is elite. Like, he's got a chance to compete on the edge this year. Not counting Kevin Wynn, I thought he was the second best trench player we got out of high school. On 3 degrees now. They had previously bumped him up to number 75, I believe, in the nation. I want to say 247 had him like 175 or something like that. On 3's latest update, they bumped him all the way up to number 24. And now folks can't say Florida State doesn't have a 5-star in the 2025 class because they've got one, Tylon Lee. So get excited about, bringing in a Kevin Wynn, who I believe is a 5-star level player. I don't think he's actually one. But, officially a 5-star in the On 3 rankings, Tylon Lee. You got to love the young guys coming in and having a chance there to compete. There's another thing I have that I wanted to talk to you guys about from golf form. How about Jameis Winston getting to do the Super Bowl coverage? I haven't caught much of that, but that's going to be fun to watch. William McMillan, can't never say your McMillan, says, do you think we get the defensive end Mathis? This is one that we've been talking to you guys a bunch. They were really spinning back on Ty Haywood. We told you guys like 2 months ago that Jason Brown was basically a silent commit. He committed. I think it's the last time we did a show. I don't think we get Haywood, but Mathis, it's tough, man. It's really tough, man. Until these guys sign, we just kind of provide the tea leaves, but he did come out and say that currently FSU is the leader. He's the guy that myself, Tiny Hat, Jen, Deshaun, I think, everybody we've talked to has said, of the two guys, of Haywood and Mathis, you got a better chance to get Mathis. And I think he's the highest rated defensive player or defensive lineman that isn't committed currently. I put it at 50-50. I think we got a 50% chance to land him. The problem with going against the Michigans, the Ohio States, the Texas Techs, whoever's pushing at the end on these guys, is they're saving their best offer for last. So if he's going to sign on signing day or whenever it's coming down for him to commit again or finish his recruitment up, they're going to come with that deal. So it depends. I don't know how many defensive lineman Michigan currently have committed. I don't know how much they value him, but that'll be a tough one. I think it's 50-50. I think they've done everything they possibly can. I think they're in a great spot for him. But at the end of the day, with these kids, their mind changes with the win. You can't really blame guys. So the schedule, that's it. I knew I was forgetting something. So this is probably going to be a shorter show, guys. I just wanted to get on here and give you an update. Prayers out to the whole Renegade Report Nation. Personally, myself, in case you didn't hear, we had a blizzard last week. We did a show last Tuesday, or was it Monday? I can't remember. One day last week where I literally fell down and did snow angels and 10 inches of snow. But that was fun that day that it happened. But the next 3 days, 4 days sucked. The snow did not go anywhere. It was freezing, shut the whole town down. I just recently started a new job. I got like a totally new schedule I'm working around. Shut it down. And in turn, that backed everything up this week. Everybody's pipes were busted. Everything was behind at work. So we were working crazy hours all this week. So appreciate you sticking with us. And, that's just my things. Prayers out to Jen and Deshaun and Tiny Hat. They're all battling flus and back pain and stuff. It's just that time of the year. Winter, getting to the dead of winter where it's going to finally start slowing off, maybe warming up here soon. We can just get into March healthy. Who knows? Maybe we'll get some good news and everybody will be feeling better. But, love to all the Renegade Report people out there. We'll get back to, back in the groove to doing a bunch of shows more regularly once everybody gets better. My schedule will regulate here a little bit, and it will. But for now, let's take a look here at our schedule. I'll run through that. And again, if you have any questions, I'll answer those, but we'll probably end the show off with that. If I can find the schedule. It's actually pretty good. Sets up pretty nice. As you see there, the red games are at home, the black games on the road. Alabama, boom. You start off with Alabama. If you can win that game, man, I pray that we win that game, man. If there's a football god out there and he's listening, we need this one, bro. We need this one bad. If FSU can beat Alabama, I can't wait to see what you guys do on the post-game show. It'll be a record post-game show. It'll be crazy. And in turn, all of a sudden, for 3-4 months, all of FSU Football Nation is going to be able to just jump right back in to full obsession mode, checking on every little thing, practice reports, being able to tune into all your shows and enjoy them. It was a tough year, guys. I get it. There's a lot of trepidation out there, a lot of people that are like, we don't like the Gus Malzahn hire. We don't like Thomas Castellanos. We don't like that. We just did this. How are you going to turn it around? I'm here to tell you, looking at the schedule, and we've said it over and over again, 7 or 8 wins is what you need. If you get 7 or 8 wins, this thing could be cooking like hot grease next year with a chance to go do some special things, similar to what Florida did this year. All of a sudden, the coach is on the hot seat, been on the hot seat for 18 months. They're about to fire him and then bring in Lane Kiffin. All of a sudden, they win a couple big games down the road, and they're rolling. But as we look here, this is one we told you about. We weren't sure the exact dates, but East Texas A&M, one of the worst football teams there is. That's who you get week 2. And then a bye week. This is the shittiest part of the schedule, guys. I don't understand. Why would you give us a bye week between 2 cupcakes to start the year? It makes zero sense to me. At the end of the day, you get almost a month really to recover from Alabama. You can handle business against East Texas A&M, handle business against the bye week, Kent State. Then you get to Virginia on a Friday. You should be 2-1 going into that game. I haven't done a lot of work on Virginia, but that's obviously a winnable game. We'll see. This is one of those crucial games. This Virginia game. Now, if you win Alabama, then you're obviously 3-0 and you're rolling. You got a chance to really do something special if you can go 4-0 to Miami. That would be another huge TV game and an opportunity for your guys. But we'll give the Alabama game and say we win Virginia. You're 3-1 going into Miami. It's at home. 4 of your first 5 games, 6 of your first 7 games, or 5 of your first 6 games are at home. So that's great. It's going to be a rough stretch to end the year, but man, I mean, Pitt, Miami, Virginia, if you can win 2 of those games, you'll be in damn good shape. Stanford, that's another game. You got to win that game. Wake Forest, you got to win that game. Clemson, you're on the road. Clemson, November 8th, coming off of Wake Forest. It's not the best. It's not the worst. Virginia Tech after them, then NC State on the road. That's a nightmare. Friday at NC State on the road, the week before Florida. I said how it's nice opening up. You got the Alabama game, that's tough, but then you get two cupcakes. Like, man, if there's one thing I could do, I would switch Kent State and NC State. If you switch those two, you could still have a bye week coming off of East Texas A&M to play NC State and Virginia afterwards. So yeah, looking at this on paper, I didn't realize kind of how ugly that is, but that really is ugly. On the road to NC State, and then to Florida. But anyways, let me know what y'all think about the schedule. I don't think it's the worst one we could have had. I think it really sets up nice. I think you've got a good 6-7 games on there that you're going to win. You should win. But if you really want to, get this thing going to the next level, really get some momentum, continue to close out with a big 26 class and continue it down the road for 27 and 28, sell the future of this thing. You need one of those 7-8 wins to come from Miami, Clemson, or Florida. Without that, it would be. It's still going to be good. I think there's going to be a regression to the mean with this, guys. I don't think you guys realize just how hard it is to lose 10 games if you're Florida State and you got the athletes. Holy shit! There's a graphic that I can't remember who put it out, but Herb Hand retweeted it. Okay, we spoke ad nauseum about they've every year Herb Hand and Gus Malzahn have a freaking top 25 offense, top 5 run offense. It's just what they do. Well, there's a big stat in running. Like, Cam Akers, when our O-line was shit, he carried us because he was so good after contact. He'd get hit in the backfield. Trey Benson even sometimes, he would get hit in the backfield, shake a guy in the backfield, and go for another 10 yards. Blow up the first guy to hit him and go for another 10 yards. Okay, we didn't get that out of Roy Dell Williams this year. But at the same time, that's all individual talent on running back. And, it's not really something you coach up. Like, you either have that or you don't. Some people need to get down. 90% of running backs need to get downhill and establish some confidence. You got some Dalvin Cooks, some Cam Akers, certain guys that it doesn't matter. They're going to make a play out of nothing. Florida State didn't necessarily have that guy on the roster last year, and it showed, okay? But what matters when it comes to you're looking at your offensive coordinator and your offensive line coach and your offensive line in terms of running backs is yards before contact, not yards after contact. Ashton Genty can lead the nation in yards after contact. That doesn't mean just because he has 3,000 yards, he has the best O-line coach in the country or the best O-line. Okay. And Florida State was second to last. Kent State was the only team worse than Florida State in yards before contact in 2023. The only team worse. You know who was number 1 in the nation? Oh, wait. UCF. Gus Malzahn and Herb Hand. They were number 1 in the nation in yards before contact. I'm not going to get into all the offensive line. We brought 4 new starters and all of a sudden have 3 or 4 guys who are starters for us that can work for one possible position. All the things there. But, yeah, am I saying that Florida State will have the number 1 yards before contact as rushers in 2025? No. But just getting to the middle of that pile, oh, my goodness. We've got so much talent at running back. What's it going to look like when we can give these guys a 3 or 4 yard head start, when there is an actual wide open lane? And I know people sit back and say, well, there were open lanes. They missed them. It's not like they always got hit by the line of scrimmage. But, yeah, I mean, it's like when you're so used to seeing holes just completely close up and this and that, like it gets tough. It's tough to believe your eyes. So look forward to it. Look forward to it, guys. I don't have much else. I appreciate everybody for joining me. And I promise, like I said, we're going to do more and more shows. We're going to get real deep into this ACC stuff, cover the final last couple of recruits Florida State's going after. Get ready for spring. There's no spring game this year, but there is spring practice, and we'll find out what we can about how everybody's doing. I'm super excited to put 2024 behind us, to move forward, and hopefully we have some good news coming soon. But I love you guys. It's all about Florida State football. And again, thoughts and prayers out there with my Noel family to get rested up. And we'll be ready to see you guys come Monday for the roast. Unless we do something special on Sunday or some breaking news comes out. But again, thanks for joining us. Go Noel.